Welcome to our discussion on the Indian GCC growth story. I'm Gautam Srinivasan, and today we are going to talk about a sector that has been generating $46 billion in revenue annually and is projected to double its GDP share to 2% by 2030. We are referring to Global Capability Centers or GCCs, which have grown by 11% between 2015 and 2023, becoming indispensable to their parent companies by integrating global expertise with local talent. Now, one of the most prominent GCCs in India is Optum India, the Global Capability Center of United Health Group or UHG, a Fortune 4 company committed to helping people live healthier lives and helping make the health system work better for everyone. With over 2 decades of presence in India, Optum India delivers quality outcomes across the continuum of healthcare. Now, to explore how GCCs are shaping the future of this sector, we have with us Ratnam Krishnan, Managing Director at Optum India. For a bit of a background in her role, Uma sets the company's vision across the country, helping teams deliver distinctive value across all businesses. Now, Uma started her working life as a diplomat with the Indian Foreign Service. Prior to joining Optum, Uma served as the CEO and MD of Barclays Global Services. Now, over the last 3 decades, she has had senior leadership roles in NatWest in the UK, ANZ Grindlays Bank, HDFC Bank, and Polaris Software. Uma is a management graduate from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and followed this up with a Women in Leadership program at Harvard Business School and a strategy program at Wharton. And we're looking forward to her insights into the strategies and challenges of GCCs in India. So let's have a conversation with Uma. It's time now for a deep dive into India's GCC ecosystem with Optum's Ratnam Krishnan. Uma, great to have you with us, and thank you for giving us an overview of what's going on. Let me first start on understanding what is Optum India, because there's a fascinating story about these capacity centers which are transforming global business. I want to know, what is Optum doing?
Sure. First, Gautam, thanks for having me. Optum India is a health innovation global capability center of United Health Group, a Fortune 4 company. We actually create value in an integrated model across the entire health ecosystem: cost, quality, and most importantly, innovation, right? Thinking about how we can do every single thing better, so that we make things better for the people that we serve, which is primarily our mission, is to actually help people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone. As Optum India, we've been in India for more than 2 decades, and our presence is scaled, and we have a lot of capability, and we are therefore a very integral part of the enterprise, cutting across all of the areas that we work in. In India, again, we're present in 5 cities: Noida, Gurugram, Hyderabad, Chennai, and Bangalore. Lastly, about our people, a little bit about our people. I think we are very keen to get the best talent in, and for our people, we give them a proposition which is about caring for them, connecting them, and growing together. And in the community we operate in, where we live and work, we are a force for good, collaborating with people who do work in the community.
At the end of the day, that's what matters. Yeah. And taking forward some of the points that you've mentioned, especially the fact that, GCCs are bringing together talent, innovation, and cost benefits for the HQ, and of course for today's world where everything is global, that is more and more important. Considering the presence of over 2 decades, as you mentioned, in India, I want you to give us this bird's eye view of how the GCC ecosystem has evolved in India.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fascinating journey. India has been at the heart of this GCC ecosystem growth, right? It's grown over the last 20 years, but the interesting thing is the pace of growth continues. I mean, we're today, as a GCC Global Capability Center ecosystem, we're about $45 billion, and that's actually expected to grow to about $110 billion. shortly in the next 5 to 7 years by 2030. So the pace of growth continues. Also, 20% of Forbes 200 companies have GCC in India. That's expected to grow to about 50% by 2030. What's driving this, right? Talent is actually what's underpinning this growth. Talent in many ways and in many areas. Now, what's also important is in this evolution, we've seen many more global and senior roles in India, and that's going to continue to grow. So what that means is leadership roles and global roles into India, we're expecting to have about 20,000 roles by 2030. And for me personally, about 30% are expected to be women because GCCs drive inclusion, diversity, and all of those. So which is great for senior and global leadership out of India. Let's come to the footprint of GCCs in India, right? Our 7 cities, Bombay, Pune, other than the 5 I spoke about earlier, which is the NCR region, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, probably has about 90% of the footprint. But what's also interesting is we are now, with the growth of GCCs, we're now starting to see the second level cities. I wouldn't call them second level, but cities other than these also actually starting to grow the GCC footprint. For example, you have Jaipur, you have Indore, you have Ahmedabad, you have Coimbatore, you have Visakhapatnam.
The new hubs of India.
The new hubs, right? Because at the end of the day, we have talent everywhere. And so that is again sort of fueling the actual growth of GCCs. And we have 1.66 million people today employed in GCCs. That's expected to grow up to 4.5 million again by 2030. So and about 50% of GCCs globally come to India, as in 100 out of 150 come to India for a footprint. So you can actually say that the GCC system and is now starting to be actually recognized as a separate segment capability, which drives many things, right? And of course it's evolved, and we can talk a little bit about how it's evolved as well.
And talking about evolution, at the end of the day, it's unlocking capability, unlocking possibility, and as you mentioned, the talent reach is now finally going to be actually implemented, where for tier 2, tier 3 areas, as this ecosystem evolves, the talent which was latent at a particular point in time now becomes on stream. All right. Taking forward this point on evolution, we've been hearing a lot about GCC 4.0 lately. If you can demystify this for us and play it into how the ecosystem evolution is now going to go to the next level with GCC 4.0.
So let's take a 2-decade step back, right?
Rewind.
Yeah, rewind to a couple of decades ago. The GCC concept really started as a cost arbitrage or an opportunity for lower cost, capabilities. Quickly, that then evolved. Once you actually established proof of concept, that quickly moved into can we deliver at scale, which is repetitive, not missing what you said you would miss, doing this day in and day out, but at scale. Now that was the next phase. Then it quickly moved on to a third phase, which was really about managing portfolios, which is not just one kind of process, a set of processes across multiple sets of businesses. So it's about portfolio, and that was when we started seeing global roles in India, like leadership roles in India for certain areas. And then we are currently sitting at what I would say 4.0, which is really we're translating into high value work, impactful work, innovation and transformation hubs, right? Now let me unpack that a little bit on what innovation and transformation, what does that mean, right? So, and again, it's important to understand that this is across many industries, right? And actually GCCs do a wide range of types of activities: software engineering, technology, analytics, operations processes, R&D, and across a very wide-ranging set of industries, starting from pharma, healthcare, financial services, retail, aerospace, oil and gas. It sort of, it's everywhere. So it cuts across industries and spectrums. At 4.0, companies, global companies, are actually looking at their GCCs to be their transformation driver, right? to actually create new products, to actually innovate, have breakthroughs in terms of the way they do things. R&D leading to new product and revenue streams, driving some of that large transformation across the companies sitting out of the global locations, right? So those are the kind of things that are actually starting to happen. And like I said, given that it is spread over so many industries, not everybody is at 4.0, right? And that's an important thing to understand. Depending on when you began, depending on which industry you are, you're potentially, you could be in any of these phases, but clearly when nobody is in phase 1, because anybody who comes in now knows that delivery at scale can happen and all of those good things. But it also, and there were some front runners, right? Banking, financial services grew very quickly. Some software companies, product companies grew very quickly in the global capability center model. So it's a bit of a mix, but what is important here is the evidence and the demonstration that GCCs can become pivotal to transforming and innovating for global businesses.
It's an idea that works.
Yeah.
That's why we are
Yeah.
seeing it so widespread among
Yeah.
all these sectors, right?
Yeah.
And banking, financial services has always been at the forefront of innovation. But looking at the fact that healthcare, aerospace, all
Yeah.
these traditional sectors
Yes.
are picking it up
Yeah.
and taking it forward
Yeah.
is heartening to
Yeah.
see. And as you mentioned, starting from a cost arbitrage paradigm to delivering excellence at scale to where now it is driving the engine of innovation and value for enterprises. Truly, we are just scratching the surface right now in terms of value. What would you say to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because we can see because the opportunity for innovation is huge. In some industries, it's more than others, right? So if innovation is fundamental, I'll give you a couple of examples of how, some of the key levers we've used in Optum in our Global Capability Center. One, and this is really important because it's about being customer centric. Now, healthcare is personal, right? Each individual is different, and we're seeing that more and more consumers of healthcare services want to be, able to understand and manage their experience. Who's their care provider? Who do they want to go to? How do they get information about their health records, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the big things that we do, and that's how you can actually create innovation value, which is make sure that our people understand the consumer, right? The consumer centricity of the work that you're doing. Who's the consumer you're delivering to? So it's not just about, okay, we'll do something and get on with it. It's about really understanding what the consumer experience is. The second part is that GCCs have a unique strength, which is they have many functions sitting together in the global location for the global company. For example, we have technology teams, we have data teams, we have finance teams, we have operational teams. So this is a great opportunity to bring to bear the power of all of them together and to actually solve a problem and come up with an innovation, right? So how do we get tech and ops to work together? How do we get data and analytics and the operations teams or the product teams to work together? And they actually result in very powerful outcomes, right? So actually leveraging the full power of what you can bring to bear to a problem, right? That's something that we've done, we are conscious about and we do, regularly. The third one is really about nurturing our talent. I mean, simply put, India's talent story, we know we're, more than 2/3 of the population is young. We have among the largest STEM population in the world. But also in a GCC like Optum, we have the ability to not just hire STEM talent, we also have the ability to hire non-STEM talent, life sciences, physical sciences, clinical, pharma, because those are different types of talent. But our fundamental job is to get the right talent in through the door. And we make sure that we get the right talent for the right problem. And the last one, really, really important if you need to get to phase 4 or 4.0 of the GCC model, which is to work very closely with global teams, because we are part of the organization. We're an integral part of the organization. So the more we're connected with the global business teams, understand the business and day-to-day work with them, that's when we can move the strategic objectives of the organization forward in a in a way that's completely integrated.
Uma, you've summarized the definition of a perfect enterprise where all the cogs are working in tandem in service of the customer, because we truly are in the era of hyper personalization at scale for the customer, whether it's healthcare or whether it's other industries. And the fact that GCCs are unlocking capabilities for a lot of the global players to tap into India's demographic dividend and in a sense build their enterprise value to the customer, it takes it forward from there. Now, taking that point into consideration though, I want to understand from you, considering you've been a leader with vast amounts of experience, what is the leadership mindset required, both globally and in India, to sustain this growth? Because at the end of the day, you need a top-down approach as well in terms of evangelizing this whole process. What would you say?
Look, fundamentally, I've seen that leadership is about getting the right talent, inspiring them, and buying into the vision and delivering what we can. Having said that, there are some nuances in the GCC world, and I worked on both sides. I worked on the commercial side, like a proper regular front-facing business, and I worked in a GCC. And there are some nuances in this business which have certain specific asks of leadership in global locations, right? First and foremost, fundamentally, it's about understanding the business and getting the right talent, right? Because it's not one business. A large GCC or a scale GCC supports many of the global businesses of that organization, particularly so you need to have an understanding of what's the right talent to bring in for the things that need to be delivered, right? And obviously make sure that give them the tools, give them the training. We spend a lot of time on training because you need to understand the global customer, the global business. So make sure that we have all the tools and invest a lot in it, and then just get out of the way and get them to deliver, right? That's fundamental. However, the kind of leadership that you need could depend on the geography, on the scale, and on the complexity of these processes or areas that you support. So the complexity will also drive the kind of leadership that you will need in a particular global location.
Could you expand on that?
So for example, if you take a healthcare company, we probably provide, we support a lot of our business areas. One is the actual healthcare delivery side. We also support what we call Optum Insight, which is technology, data, tools, managed services for the healthcare ecosystem. So that's a lot of technology and data and analytics. So the kind of talent you need there is different. On the other side, we have the Optum Care, which is clinical talent, right? And then we also have pharma talent. So it's a combination. And then we have the insurance side, which is the United Healthcare side, which is claims, processing. That's operational talent. So it's a combination of operational expertise, health knowledge, and then data, technology, and so on. So you bring a wide range of talent together to work on this, right? So as leadership, we need to be clear about what kind of talent you need to bring in, right? Then two other things I'll call out, which is, other than making sure once you get them in, make sure that you clear the impediments so they can actually, because in a global concept, in a global organization, it does need a lot of working with the global partners, right, to make sure things happen, and that needs a lot of influencing skills and a lot of ability to engage and create relationships at a global level. Two other things I'll call out. One is, for a GCC leader, it's really important to have a much more broad-based global social perspective, broader perspective, right? Not just a single market.
Not a very localized single market perspective.
Because you need to understand how global businesses function. You're working in different domains. You need to understand, global talent comes in diverse packages, right? You can't deal with a talent sitting in, US or wherever else in the same way that you potentially manage talent sitting here. So you need to understand that the diversity and the business across the board, and that's really important. Personally, I also feel for GCCs, and I say this quite a lot, which is you need something called a growth mindset as a leader, right? Which is things are changing so quickly. You need to be agile and keep learning and just be curious about learning.
Blue sky thinking.
Yeah, completely. Just, okay, how do I solve this problem? Maybe my last time I did it could have been different. Something could have moved on here, right? But just that ability to have a growth mindset.
All right, a growth mindset and a global mindset.
Yeah.
That's how you take the
Yeah.
GCC revolution forward. Before we sign off on our conversation, Uma, your recommendations on growing this ecosystem even further, because as you mentioned earlier, 45 billion currently, $110 billion, and that still looks less considering the
Yeah.
potential that GCCs can bring to the table for global enterprises. What are some recommendations that you would suggest for growing this ecosystem better?
Sure. Look, in terms of numbers as well, the number of GCCs setting up, capability centers is growing. Today, we're at about 1,600, there or thereabouts. We're expected to get to 2,400 to 2,500 GCCs, which itself is a significant growth over the next, by 2030. Now, to continue to add value and to continue to drive value out of the global capability centers, I think there's a few things that GCCs need to think about and focus on. On the other side, the environment needs to help us along, whether it's policies or infrastructure or whatever. So I'll kind of cover both of those, the key points in both of those. First, the GCCs themselves, when we're moving towards what's innovation transformation, it's really important to understand the areas of focus and potentially set up maybe a center of excellence or an incubation hub. For example, cloud capability, for example, digital capability, R&D in certain areas, right? So if the GCCs themselves focus on the areas that they want to actually drive value out of, depending on the company, the business, they then need to set up those centers of excellence, is the thing I would say to kind of continue to drive that value. Second thing is the talent. More than half our graduates come from non-7 cities that I spoke about initially. And to continue to build on this scale, we need to make sure that we develop another set of locations from which the GCC can. It's already started, but we need to continue to do that, for skill diversity, lower costs, because that is important. I mean, it's still a driver, right? So lower cost acquisition of the right talent and making sure there's some areas where you can actually expand into at lower risk and so on. So the second level of locations that we need to start looking at. The third for the GCCs is about building the culture, because this is a model which is a front to back model. You're fully integrated with your global company, so you need to build the right culture and the right approach and business knowledge. So that the more you're connected, the more you work front to back, the better your outcomes will be. Right? And the last one is to keep talking about and demonstrating the value that these locations can actually deliver, right? On the other side, to help move this along, we would absolutely require support and help, whether it's in policies, whether it's in incentives, whether it's recognition, because the GCCs play a big role in terms of contributing to the economic, human capital, innovation, environmental capabilities, practices, global practices. So we need continued help and support in terms of policies and infrastructure from the locations and the governments, in the states that we operate in. So yeah, that would be sort of a summary to say, I think there's a lot of opportunity and we need to do the things we need to do to realize it.
Miles to go before we sleep, and
Correct.
It's amazing to see the transformation that is taking place both in the back and in the front office, and it's perfect that there is an ecosystem solution now for tapping into India's demographic dividend and making sure that it is actually useful for not just the India growth story, but for the global growth story. Well, that was the deep dive into the GCC ecosystem with Uma Ratnam Krishnan. Uma, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Nice conversation. Thank you, Gautam.
Thank you so much. Well, that was Uma sharing her insightful perspectives on the growth and impact of GCCs in India. Now, her expertise has shed light on the transformative potential of this sector and how it is poised to double its share in India's GDP by 2030. The combination of global expertise and local talent, as highlighted, is indeed driving remarkable innovations and value creation. Well, her vision and leadership in steering this growth is remarkable, and it's clear that the future of GCCs in India is bright, promising significant economic contributions and career opportunities. That was a special presentation brought to you by Mint. I'm your host Gautam Srinivasan. Thank you to all the viewers for tuning in. Have a great day.